Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Today, I'm going to be talking about grips. I'm going to be talking actually about grip shapes. Now, why are there different grip shapes? Why do some rackets feel different than others when you grip them? Well, there's actually really, in my opinion, two grip shapes in the racket world. One is more of a squared off grip shape, and the other is more of a rectangular grip shape. So historically, Head has been the only company to go a different direction. Theirs are a little more rectangular. They're a little flatter and skinnier through this area here. So it's flatter and skinnier this way. At the end of the day, if you took a tape measure and measured around the center of the grip, if it says it's a 3/8, it almost 99% comes out a 3/8, whether it's rectangular or squared off. Now, when I say squared off, let's take a Wilson, the traditional Wilson shape. You can see that it's not a perfect square. It's still sort of rectangular, but sort of fatter here. So this part is fatter here. So not as flat this way, but fat like this way, right? So taller a little bit. But that affects how it lays in your palm. If you took the traditional Prestige with the flatter side here, if you think about it back in the old way, where everybody held it continental like that, you had a flatter surface laying against your palm like that. Therefore, more mass against your palm, more stability that way. So, but that was when we all held it, pretty much one grip like that. So, remember turn, step, hit? Well, the more mass against your palm, the more stability you had over the racket. That's also why we all went with like a bigger grip than we usually should. I mean, I started with a 4.5 at age 7. So, but that was all there was. There was no 4-inch grips or 4 1/8. So the bigger you had, the better it was for you, is what the notion was back then. So the different shapes actually do affect how you feel and play. For the people who grew up playing with Head, you're used to this and it feels right to you. And when you switch to like a squared off Wilson, it feels a little different. Home is a little different, meaning when you grip this racket, the bevels feel different to you. As an example, when Novak Djokovic went from his blade to his speed, they actually had to alter the grip for him because he couldn't change into a more rectangular traditional Head grip. So they actually squared off his grip for him, and in turn, the speed line is a squared off grip, a la Wilson. As well as Maria's MP, she came from Prince, and they also had to square off her grip too, because it's a big change from going to a traditional grip from Prince or Wilson to a grip from Head. So they pretty much had to alter the grips in the pallets at production to make these for them, therefore changing these two to a more squared off traditional grip. So that's why if you pick these up and you played with a Wilson, you know what I mean. But if you play with a traditional Head, then you're like, oh, this isn't a traditional head grip. Other companies like Babolat and Yonex have that traditional grip also. It is more squared off, like in this VCore Pro. The whole Babolat line squared off. So if you play with anything except for, head, like just this Gravity and these Prestiges, even the Radical, they have that rectangular grip. I know a lot of people who are switching rackets and going from other companies to head, they always comment like, oh, that grip. And I was like, yeah, you kind of have to get used to it if you switch to that racket. So, but it also, if you even look at this is actually a more defined look at that grip, as you can see. It's more rectangular, a little shorter in this angle, a little shorter this way. Okay, so the advantage of this in today's tennis is that it sits like, let's say that's a Western grip, so it sits like this. There's a narrower this part, right? So it's actually kind of easier to hit it this way, and you can feel the bevels when you turn into like a backhand grip. You can feel the definition of this flat a little more. But most people not playing with head, they're kind of used to, let's say Novak squared one, you're used to throwing it around a little more easier in the squares, because it's kind of easier to flip from grip to grip, as it feels like a square more than that slight rectangular feel. So it's easier to kind of do this, and feel, I say it's easier to feel more like home with the rectangulars, but this is easier to switch. Yeah, because you can find the bevels easier when it's defined like this. But we're all used to the squared off, and when it's not squared off is when we're like, it doesn't feel right. But that's the truth in grips. Like, what kind of grip do you like? Did you grow up playing with head? Did you grow up playing with Wilson? And did you switch to a head? Or did you play with head and switch to a Wilson? Was that an easy switch for you? Would you prefer switching grips and like having the racket companies give you the option of going flatter or square? Let me know. All right. So that's the definition. That's how I explain the grips from head versus everybody else. All right. Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.